Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 9 p.m. on Wednesday night. I am Rabbi Efrem Goldberg, joined together with my dear friends and colleagues, Rabbi Philip Moskowitz and Rabbi Josh Broide, and we are here to take you
behind the Bima.
We're going behind the Bima. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We are trying a new format and hoping that you found us and that we're not just talking to ourselves. We might be, and that's okay. We're cool with that because we happen to like each other. And also, in addition to the live show tonight, it's a podcast that we know that hundreds, if not thousands, listen to, and we're so grateful for that. So thanks for being with us tonight. Excited for our show tonight. Tonight is season 1, episode 20. Episode 20.
I might be ready for season 2.
Ready for season 2? I thought we said that comes after Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah, no, I'm amending my position on that.
Amending the position. Is that the only position you're going to amend tonight, or are we risen the other one?
Definitely the only one.
Shall we pick up where we last left off?
No, we got to ease in. First, we got to make a Lachaim.
Got to make a Lachaim. Please make the Lachaim tonight. Tell us, first of all, what you're drinking.
I am drinking some Lafroig, and I'm making Lachaim to good friends, to good family, and to good health, and to our children starting the school year safely.
Oh man! And I want to add in we're thinking about all those who are in Hurricane Laura's path, and this devastating hurricane is charging its way towards the coast, the Gulf Coast.
Unsurvivable.
It really is scary, and it's amazing because I was actually thinking this afternoon. I know we're in the middle of Lachaim, but I was thinking this afternoon that this is you know how we feel when there's a hurricane plowing towards us, and we wonder like how is the rest of the world going on? Why isn't everything come to a standstill? Why aren't people focusing, concentrating, having emergency prayer rallies, calling on us to check in on us? And the reality is that that's what we're doing right now. Life goes on, but it's not going on for the people who are hunkered and bunkered down, who are fearful for their life. And so, Lachaim, we daven for those in Hurricane Laura's path. We pray for their safety, their well-being, and we hope that they are okay. Lachaim, baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh b'dvaro.
Amen.
Rabbi Broide, class act tonight. Let me tell you.
Right. Do you want a brown paper bag for that?
All he's missing, exactly my words, is a brown paper bag. We've got a lot of conversation tonight.
Johnny Walker Red. This is like the end. It's the same way. I needed to do another laundry today. I've been wearing a bathing suit all day.
Okay. There's a little too much information. TMI, we want to grow our audience, not lose them, Rabbi Broide. But thank you again, keeping it classy. We want to thank our sponsors yet again, our dear friends. If you look at the bottom of your screen, tonight is
look at that
law group. Donnie Oppenheimer, the Oppenheimer Law Group, personal injury law firm representing injury victims and their families throughout the state of Florida. You can call or text 888-677-7796, 888-677-7796 for a free case evaluation. And Donnie is sponsoring yet again. He's a good friend, pillar of our community. And if you need any law needs, he's really quite brilliant and erudite and articulate and eloquent. And I'm just talking about on his Facebook page. Now I'm just joking. That's a little controversial there. But he sponsored tonight in support of Bidi Deutsch's fight for Olympic gold and the ongoing Kiddush Hashem that she's doing. Unfortunately, we have some bad news, which is that Bidi Deutsch had a conflict and is not able to join us, but we are going to have her in the future. So we do wish her well, and we're following her story closely. She is a Kiddush Hashem. She is an inspiration to Rabbi Moskowitz and runners everywhere. She's fighting for the Jewish cause to be able to compete in the Olympics. And we're sorry she's not able to join us tonight, but we're looking forward to having her on in the future. And a big thank you to Donnie Oppenheimer for that sponsorship yet again.
I was actually...
I had a question. I was debating with someone in the running world who was very excited that we were having her on tonight. And I was going to ask her about motivation. How do you stay motivated? Anyone who's ever done long runs, and I'll include anything 10 miles and above, knows that running is much more mental than it is physical. And I was going to ask her about how she stays motivated, how she gets up in the morning. And this person told me he would venture to say she would laugh at my question, that elite runners don't struggle with motivation at all. He would surmise that she jumps out of bed in the morning, ready to go. And that was going to be my question to her. And I'm curious what you guys think, right? In other words, do you think that even people at an elite level are so zoned in that they have no struggles, or everyone struggles with motivation?
I think it probably comes and goes. I think there are days that people struggle with motivation, but on the whole, the way they got that status and they became accomplished in that arena is that they're driven, they're ambitious, they've got drive, competitive spirit, the killer instinct, And whether they're competing against others or they're competing against themselves and their own record, I think people have that. The question is, if you're not born with that and you don't have it, can you learn it?
All right. It's funny. That's what you were
I
thinking.
think you can. Listen, I wasn't born loving running. I developed a love for running, and obviously I'm not an elite level, but where it was a real struggle to go.
Rabbi Brody, what were you going to say?
Phil, Rabbi Moskowitz was talking, about the great questions he was thinking about asking. When I heard she wasn't going to be on, I figured no one really knows what she looks like. So I was going to grab Simone Shatel and pretend to be her tonight, just to kind of fill in. But
yeah, but I'm glad you didn't try that. And again, Rabbi Brody, keeping it classy. So before we move on, we have a lot of topics, a lot of things to talk about. But let's talk a little bit about our format and our change tonight. We've already gotten a little resistance. We have some people who are allergic to change. They don't like change, but this is the season of change. This is when we're trying to improve. So we moved over from Zoom. First of all, we're still recording as a podcast. You can listen behind the Bima on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and Stitcher and all the podcast players that are out there. It continues to climb the Billboard charts. But in terms of the live show tonight, instead of broadcasting from Zoom, we're using a program called StreamYard, which enables us to stream it right to Facebook, right to YouTube, and to a few other platforms. You can write comments on any of those platforms, and we see them all integrated as one. So, but we'd like some watcher viewer feedback. Do you like this? What do you think about this layout? You like this layout of us talking side by side, talking heads, analyzing, debating? We're going to get into some stuff. Do you like this better? Which is the layout we're going for? Please feel free to weigh in on the comments on any of the platforms that you're watching. We'd love to hear from you. And we're excited. We can scroll things in the bottom. We're going to improve and add new things on a regular basis. But we're very, very excited to be able to continue to upgrade what we bring to you. So I have a question for both of you tonight, and this is a etiquette question. Etiquette question. Of course, the appropriate thing is to wear a mask in public. And whenever you're out in crowds, whenever you're around others, whenever you can't maintain distancing outdoors, you got to wear a mask. It's the right thing to do. We endorse it. We practice it. Our shul requires it. It's what we've been doing. Here's my etiquette question for you. When you feel a sneeze coming on and you're wearing a mask, what's the move? Do you pull the mask down and sneeze into your elbow? Or do you sneeze into the mask, which is essentially the equivalent of sneezing in your own face? And then having to live
I did this the other morning. I get allergies in the morning sometimes. I was in the middle of davening, and I felt some sneezes coming on. And the last thing you want to do right now is sneeze in shul, because then you know that about 50 people are looking at you and saying, what's wrong with that guy? Does he have COVID? So I excused myself from davening. I went out. I sneezed. I blew my nose. And Moshe Kamenetsky looked at me and goes, you're not the first one this morning. So apparently that's the popular move, is to walk out.
Pop in, but what's the move with the mask? And let's say you can't walk out. Let's say you're in a place or you're surrounded by people and you can't excuse yourself. Sneeze into the mask and live with the consequences, or lower the mask and sneeze into your elbow. Has the CDC weighed in on this question?
It's a good question. One of the things that I think you have to try and predict what kind of sneeze it's going to be. I'll give you an example. I have two allergies. A lot of people don't know about my allergy. I have one allergy. I'm allergic to metal. So I can't wear a ring or a watch or anything metal, right? The other allergy I have, it is an allergy. I looked it up. I mean, it's up there. I'm allergic to sunlight. When I go outside from a room and I walk outside, same thing happens with my kids. Automatic sneeze, but there's nothing comes out. It's just a sneeze.
Real thing?
What?
Yeah, for sure, that's a real thing.
I walk out of shul, I sneeze. It's like a sneeze into the thing.
You learn something new every day.
So we change the view. I'm not loving this view.
You're not loving the view. Okay, our viewers
are a little close
in fully, but
we'll too close.
There you go.
You like that a little bit better?
I do. I'm a little more comfortable with it not right in my face.
We're going to play with this and we're going to evolve. So last week our show ended with a heated and rigorous debate, and there's a few things. I don't want to revisit the argument for several reasons. I don't want to revisit it. Don't make your snide.
Because you lost.
I don't want to revisit it. I didn't lose. I don't want to revisit it. But I want to share a couple observations about the conversation and then transition to a corollary or a similar conversation. First observation is that people saw the way we went at it, taking different positions on this question of sports. And I got several texts afterwards like, are you and Rabbi Moskowitz okay? Like, are you guys going to be able to come back from this? What will it be like tomorrow? Can you talk? They don't know that 2 seconds after the show, we were back on FaceTime like best friends. That and I don't know, is this
Debating it.
a gender thing, like a guy thing? Is this a sports thing? That you could have a vociferous and rigorous debate. You could put it all out on the line, and it's not personal. Then, like 2 seconds later, you go to the next conversation, and you're best of friends.
Well, don't we have a precedent for that? I mean, and when you talk about the Gemara and things like that, isn't that exactly what they did? We called them Milchamta Shel Torah. They used to battle over something. Chavrusas used to argue about a point. And then when they were done, they used to, Ohavim Zad Zed, they used to love each other again. So we've been able to model our relationship after that. And we've had some heated ones along the way. I'm not going to lie, whether it's based on tennis games, whether it's drushas, some of the classic Red Sox-Yankee drusha shots that we've taken at each other. Yep. But that's the fun of it.
Milchamta Shel Torah. Not all of it is Torah, but I agree. In other words, it's depersonalized. You're able to maintain that friendship. You have that strong foundation, and you can debate ideas without it having to become personal. And I'm not saying that we are the model of it. I'm sure we sometimes fail at it, but I think that's something our country desperately needs: the ability to disagree agreeably and the ability to debate ideas without it becoming personal. This just in, Rabbi Broide, my daughter Tamar and my son-in-law Kalev are also allergic to the sun and sneeze when they go outside.
Allergic to the sunlight. See?
Wow. This just in.
Not to live in Florida, then.
You guys are both smart guys. You both love your teams, your Red Sox and your Yankees, and New England and New York. Do you sometimes question why the other one doesn't see your side? Because you're so invested in it and you love it, and it's like, this is my team, and I know how come he just doesn't see it?
First of all, you don't see it with sports because it's all where you grew up, or the Masorah, the tradition you have from your parent, and it's who you're meant to root for, and it really is illogical. You're not rooting because of some allegiance, ideological connection. You're rooting because of a city, because of a nostalgia, because of a family. The debate we had last week wasn't even between two sports teams. It was about a rule or an unwritten rule in sports, but the debate can be about politics, about anything. So I was having a pretty heated debate with a family member of mine, shall remain nameless, about the election. We're an apolitical show, so we will not weigh in. What we tried to get to in the conversation was, did we have the ability to at least recognize the other ones, where they're coming from and their point of view? In other words, to not believe it, understand it, agree with it, but say, that's reasonable. It's a reasonable point of view, even though I vehemently disagree with it. And that's, I think, a goal of debating.
Of course, yeah, no, that's the whole... That's what we strive for.
Was there just a breakdown in technology, or you guys?
No, I didn't know Rabbi Broide was jumping back in.
I just realized the comment thing on the side. There's all these people that just wrote. I didn't even notice that the entire time.
You're catching up, doing a reading.
Wow, look at this.
Happens to be, it's a lot more distracting, this platform, than other platforms. I see you distracted, and now that I see comments coming on the side, I'm distracted also.
I'm loving it. So to transition to this week, so one was the observation that people had, that they were afraid. They saw the way that we debated. They thought it was personal, when it's ridiculous. It was a joke. It wasn't whatsoever. The second is, I was thinking to myself, we had this debate last week about the unwritten rules of baseball. What do you guys think are the unwritten rules of shul life? Doesn't say anywhere. It's not in the Constitution or bylaws. Doesn't appear in the Shulchan Aruch or Halacha. But what are some of the unwritten rules of shul life? And please, our listeners and our viewers weigh in.
You're
Please
in my seat.
Comment, send us an email if you're listening later. What are the unwritten rules of shul life? I thought of one.
You're in my seat.
No, you're in my seat.
That's
unwritten rule.
Your seat, and you're in my seat.
Is there a makam kavua or not a makam kavua? What's the halacha of makam kavua? No halacha of makam kavua. Do you have a set seat? But here was my unwritten rule. You ready? You cannot sing a slow lechadodi at the late summer minyan Friday night. Unwritten rule of shul life.
No, see this is
late minyan, and you start a slow lechadodi, the pitcher should throw at you.
So first of all, I don't think you should ever do a slow one, but I argue the opposite. Early minyan is the one you can't do it at, because those are people that want to get home to the kids. By the late minyan, your kids are asleep, you got nowhere to go, you might as well enjoy yourself. But the early minyan, people who are there want to get home and be with their children, and when you start with that slow lechadodi, you got to look around the room. Rabbi, you and I sit in the front of the room, and we can sense air getting sucked right out of a room.
Right.
A slow chadodi will do that.
Yeah. So that's one unwritten rule, is the chazan mistiming, the wrong pace of a lechadodi at the wrong time. What are the other unwritten rules? We welcome your comments. What are your thoughts?
Don't tell me to be quiet.
That's an unwritten rule? Depends where. Depends what shul.
No, I only know one shul.
Unwritten
Yeah, a
rule.
lot of them
By
have
the
to do
way,
with chazanim. A lot of them have to do with chazanim. A chazan isn't just leading the davening, but they have to have a sense of the pulse of the community. So if you're like, let's say, Simchas Torah, 1:00 in the afternoon, you as a chazan need to know when to speed it up and when to slow things down. That to me is where a lot of the unwritten rules come in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't walk in and out of the rabbi's drasha. That is, again, dependent on the shul and the culture of the shul.
Unwritten rule. When you come for mincha and you're catching the end of the class,
I got to
walk right through the class to the front where there's 4 minutes left to the class, even if that's your seat.
Right.
Hang out in the back until the class ends and it's time for mincha, and then come to the front.
What about the kids that start, climbing like on the jungle gym next to you when you're giving your drasha? Like
don't let your kids swing from the banisters and not doing anything.
Canned men, right? Kids coming in for candy, the drasha, that's a biggie also.
Yeah, unwritten rules. Unwritten. What are other?
I will also say coming back from the Kiddush club during the drasha.
Yeah. What are gabbai unwritten rules? Unwritten rules of being a gabbai, like the umpire. Who you give what to and when you pace it and what you announce. And
they don't give the same people every week.
No, but for sure the gabbai and the shul receptionist are the two most underrated positions in shul life. Because when we think about the experience that our members have, the majority of their experience are dictated by who answers the phone when they call the shul and what type of davening they experience when they come to shul. And those are the receptionist and the gabbai, a non-paid position. It's interesting to think about who you place in those positions and do we really fully appreciate just how much that dictates the experience of our members.
Yeah, here's an unwritten rule of shul life, although it should be written. Don't talk to anyone at the Kiddush if you're still chewing your food.
Right. Big one.
Swallow. Finish what's in your mouth before you talk.
And it usually ends up on the other person 9 times out.
Yeah, and that person's usually one of the rabbis.
Right.
Rabbi Broide, this
the whitefish
my mother has texted that my brother sneezes when he looks at the sun.
We've uncovered something.
Is this like an Ashkenazi genetic? Does this go with like bowel issues? What's the? Where did this come from? Looking at the sun and sneezing. Who knew? Who knows?
Funniest thing, you should see when my kids walk out of the house. It's like clockwork. Like they're indoors, they walk outside and they sneeze. One sneeze, that's it.
Unbelievable.
All of us at the same time.
No, but see, I'm a multiple sneezer. Once you get me going, I could be going for like 5-10 minutes. Yeah,
unwritten rule. We have one of our counters writes, the gabbai, don't favor friends. Find ways to include people who don't get attention. It's an unwritten rule. It's a beef, right? Don't give the same Levi every Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos. There are other Levium in the room. Unwritten rule of shul life. There's so many unwritten rules outside of being a gabbai or the kibudim, right? There are plenty of other unwritten rules of shul life. We got to give that one some thought. We'll come back to it. So let's check in.
On first rule of the Kiddush club: don't talk during the Kiddush club.
That's good. That's good. Let's talk. Let's check in on how the challenge
is there an unwritten rule that at a certain point in the davening, if you show up at that point, it's just too late. Don't walk in. Last week I was at shul. Like, there was a guy that came in literally Aleinu. He came, sat down in his seat, davened, and then he left. We were done 2 minutes later. Is that an unwritten rule?
But see, Rav Levi Yitzchak Miberditcher would say, Rav Levi Yitzchak would say, what a beautiful thing. Guy came in for Aleinu and Kaddish. What a magnificent thing.
Good question. Adon Olam might be a little bit late to be showing up.
I remember there's a few years where we started early, like on certain yantifs. Like I thought it was normally 9, and then I think it's at 8, and it was like 7. I've walked in, it's like an hour in, and I'm like, oh, this is so embarrassing.
It's rough. It's rough.
Not easy.
So let's check in. This Elul, our shul, the BRS movement. BRS is not a shul; it's a movement. And BRS movement offered a 30-day challenge. Rabbi Moskowitz is creating.
I got an unwritten. 1 second. I just see what someone wrote there. If you're sitting right in front of the rabbi, and you might have dozed off, don't fall off your chair in front of him.
You know that once happened. It was one of the highlights of my career. What's amazing about the story is that the person was in their early 30s. It was an afternoon class. Maybe he had a baby at home. He didn't sleep that night. It's the first time I ever saw this. People have fallen asleep. In fact, I was on a Zoom call with a bunch of rabbis this week, and one of the rabbis talked about how this past Shabbos was their first time back in shul, his first time he spoke. He gave like a 3-minute talk. 3-minute talk. So he said, I don't want to like deflate everybody, but I'll just tell you, after 6 months, the usual cast of characters, like the same people who were sleeping 6 months ago, they were asleep now. The same people listening, they were listening now. Like absence did not make the heart grow fonder. So we've all had that. You're given the drasha, person's sleeping, maybe the person starts snoring, somebody elbows them. But I was given a class on a Shabbos afternoon, a young guy sitting in the front, and he fell into such a deep sleep, and his head started to fall forward that he literally, and I know I'm using the word literally for our Shul cynic out there, he literally fell off his chair. He woke up when he hit the ground, and I would have given him, I don't know what the Russian judge would have given. I would have given like a 9.7 with the way in which he bounced right back up and tried to sit back up in that chair and make it like nothing happened. And now imagine,
no, for sure you play it cool.
Yeah, but you're teaching that class. So what do? Do you look in the other direction? Do you say something? Do you make a joke? Do you make him feel good? What do you do?
Well, so it's funny. I find that when I notice people dozing off, and then I'll ask them afterwards to say, "Oh, are you okay? I noticed you were sleeping during the drasha." They're shocked to know that you and I notice. Right? They're shocked to know that even while we're giving a drasha, we're still able to notice certain people sleeping during the drasha.
Oh, 100%.
No, and the other way is true also. When you're falling asleep and you're dozing and you think the person doesn't notice because you keep you think you're
the worst, the head bob.
And it's just, once you're doing that, you're out.
So I was at the dentist today. I had some dental work I needed to get done.
I know.
And I've got the greatest dentist. We all know him. Aside from rooting for the wrong sports teams, he is a great, great guy. Sweetheart, gentle. He's a great dentist. So he told me at the end that I paid him the greatest compliment that one could pay the dentist. What do you think is the biggest compliment you could give your dentist?
Falling asleep in the dental chair.
I fell asleep and started snoring in the middle of his working on my tooth.
Wow.
That's pretty good, right?
Wow, that's talented.
I want some of that.
That's talented.
That's pretty good.
The only place I fall asleep is the barber. You put me in a barber chair, you might as well have put me with an IV of Ambien or something. I get into that chair, I'm out like a light.
My dear friend, buy clippers. You'll save a lot of money. It's whatever. I'm going to leave it at that. Anyway, I want to move over to Elul. Rabbi Moskowitz. So tell us about the idea that you had the 30-day challenge and the 9 different areas, mind, body, soul, the WhatsApp groups that have started. And then I'm hoping each of us can weigh in on how our challenges are going, what we're hearing from people, what's the feedback, people pushing themselves, can encourage people. Where can they go if they want to still join one of these challenges?
Yes, they can go to brsonline.com/Elul to find out all about the challenge and how to sign up for specific challenges. But the goal was pretty simple. This year, because we're somewhat limited in our ability to connect people through Shul, we wanted to empower people to change themselves outside of Shul with the support, obviously, and then the inspiration from BRS. And so what we did was we issued a challenge, 9 different areas, mind, body, and soul, where basically we encourage people to become the best version of themselves, that if you make small incremental changes for 30 days straight, then eventually you'll approach Rosh Hashanah as a different person. And so the challenges go from everything from doing a 2-minute plank a day, which I know you have a very heated WhatsApp group. There was actually a plank competition outside of Marav last night, after Marav, where people were showing the correct...
The update on the planks.
Okay, no. So there's a plank chat, there's a walking chat, there's a couch to 5K chat, there's leave your cell phone at a shul, there's benching from a sitter, all different types of things, very small things, very doable things, but really encouraging people to push themselves, again, with small, manageable, incremental changes throughout Elul.
So which are your groups? What are your challenges, and what's the kind of feedback that you've gotten so far? Are you doing the challenges yourself?
I am doing every challenge, and that would be a little hypocritical if I wasn't. So one of them is a walk-run challenge, right? We said circle, but I'm encouraging, whatever you want to do. You want to walk a little bit, run a little bit during the day, get out there, get a little bit of exercise. The other is to bench from a bencher. So many of us have been benching for so many years that it becomes monotonous and by rote. And so it's encouraging people to take a little bit of time, slow down, say the only biblical blessing that we do every day and do it properly. And the last one is reading, to read a little bit every day, challenge your mind to turn off the TV maybe at night and open a book that might expand your worlds. What about you, Rabbi Goldberg?
Challenges, how have they impacted you? Are you doing or thinking or feeling differently? I think today's day 6 of the challenge. So how are you at day 6? Check in with us.
So day 6, thank God I'm doing all the challenges. Walking the circle is a little hard just because it takes a little bit of time, but I like the idea. In other words, for me, whatever I'd signed up for is nice, but from the idea, just every day knowing that I'm doing something for mind, body, and soul to improve myself, to me that's a cognitive change that takes place that really focuses you throughout Elul. And so the specifics of whatever challenge you're doing is almost irrelevant. The concept behind it is what's so important to me.
Nice. So, Rabbi Broide, what are your 3 challenges and what's the impact on you?
Yes, I'm doing the tefillin challenge. I'm running that little group. What's interesting actually is that we had, this is not the first or only group we have with tefillin. We actually started this about 7 months ago with a bunch of guys that came back from one of our Israel trips, one of the men's trips, and they gave a free pair of tefillin to any guy that's never owned a pair of tefillin and said that they would commit to putting it on for the next 40 days or, a couple weeks. We still have that group going, and it's 7 months later right now. And I remember the first few weeks, they were putting on tefillin more than you guys were because they're doing it on Shabbos also. So it's, putting it on every single day.
There's an opinion in the Talmud that's a time for tefillin. We don't paskin that way, but there's an opinion.
Right. So it's great. And we're still all doing it. And there definitely is this exciting, I would say, energizing peer pressure that you see the one guy's doing it. And we actually post a photo of ourselves every single day. So you see the other guys doing it. Not everyone makes it every single day, but
give us a story. Inspire our listeners. Inspire us. Give us a story of a guy who never dreamed would be wearing tefillin, and he's putting tefillin on every day.
Well, all these guys are. What's interesting now is that now I put this new tefillin group that the Rabbi Moskowitz made. I put it out to these guys that were not part of that original group, and some people that like Warren's friends. I'm not going to tell you, on the show right now who they are.
Right.
But signed up even just yesterday. So even though the challenge started a few days ago, new guys are joining. And then there's people. This is not just a local Boca thing. There's some guy in New York. I don't even know who he is. He's on what we call the what's the name of the group? Energized by Tefillin. And he just posted a picture of himself. Again, I don't know who he is. It says late in the day, but tefillin from New York City. So I'm assuming it's a guy that would love to put on tefillin every day. Probably for whatever reason can't make it to a minyan every day, but just needs a little bit of a push. And I think that this collective group peer pressure kind of, but not in a negative way, in a very positive way, is exciting people to do things they've never done before. And I joined the plank group.
Saw that. I noticed that you even posted a plank last night.
Yes.
I was impressed by that.
Right.
So I'm also loving it. And you can see scrolling on the bottom of our new system, the brsonline.org/Elul. You can still join those WhatsApp groups in progress. We're 6 days in, but we still have over 3 weeks to go in this challenge. And my 3 challenges are gratitude journal, 3 things every day to record what you're grateful for. And, the challenge of that is it's so easy to do generic things. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful I can see. I'm grateful that I have a house. The challenge is to be really specific. I'm so grateful that the new platform for Behind the Bima worked out and people actually join, whatever it is, whatever you're grateful for, something significant, insignificant, consequential, negligible, but to really identify 3 things to articulate. And we offered in our group an app that you could download. You could write it. You could just say it. You could think it. But to really to try to have an attitude of gratitude. So that's one group. And the second group of mine is the turn off your phone for davening group. And what made me think of that is about 8 months ago, I was talking with a few of my friends, and I said, I'm really embarrassed. I've sunk to a low level where I'm at Shul, I'm during davening. I'm one of the rabbis. I'm in the front of the room. They wait for me. But this thing in my pocket, when it buzzes, when it beeps, when it vibrates, this feeling of what's on there, what's it saying, what am I missing out on? And then your mind plays these tricks on you, like maybe it's critical. Maybe I have to look at it right now. Maybe it's life-threatening. Maybe it's an announcement I have to make during davening, so I have to look at it at this moment. And I decided that I really was addicted to it, even to the point of during davening. So I made a promise and a pledge and asked others to be my accountability partner. And I kept track. I actually kept a record of how many days in a row I could go without bringing my phone into davening, leaving it in my office or putting it on airplane mode in my pocket. And the key is not just not taking it out of your pocket. The key is putting it on airplane mode, some ritual that you're turning it off and you're disconnecting from it. And I'm really proud to tell you that I went so many days that I stopped counting because it just became a new normal for me that Baruch Hashem, thank God, I'm not even tempted. So I put that challenge out to people, and we have a great WhatsApp group and try to share a thought each day. And I want to tell you this amazing text I got. I got a text a little bit before Mincha just today, earlier today. And this is the text. You listening? It says, I've been meaning to tell you, the phone off during shul thing has been great for my focus. One night, I even forgot to turn it back on for an hour and noticed in retrospect that it was one of the nicer nights I had laying with my kids, putting them to bed because the phone wasn't a distraction. So it really, it's from a good friend and a wonderful guy, but I wouldn't have necessarily seen him as being part of this group or seen that coming. But it's the kind of thing that if you challenge yourself to do, and this guy is, if you have a competitive juices, then you take on that challenge. And here's the thing, you're not like I'm doing it for 30 years. I'm doing it for 30 days. And there's nothing that any of us can't do for 30 days. We can all do it for 30 days. So, he got that feedback after day 5. Already on day 6, he was seeing that return. And then my third group, as you referenced, maybe my favorite, is the plank group. Everyone know what a plank is? A plank, like you lean on your forearms and you hold your body straight like a plank, and you try to hold that position as long as you can. So you say, what kind of workout is it to stay still? Staying still is a workout. So I'll tell you, the first time you plank, if you've never done it or haven't done it in a while, your body shakes like, someone might think that you're convulsing, like God forbid you're having a seizure. Like your core, you're waking up muscles that you never knew, you've never been introduced to before. Shalom Aleichem, nice to meet you. They are wide awake. So it's great. Our group, you've got, we've got a message about it, trying to motivate people each day. And then we motivate each other by posting the stopwatch on your phone that you clock how long you held the plank. And as I keep posting, it's not a competition with anyone else. One of my neighbors who's amazing, is already close to a 5-minute plank. God bless them. It's hard not to be depressed when you see that. The key is you're not competing with anyone, you're competing with yourself. The key is do it 30 days in a row, and every day do it a little bit longer than you did it the day before. Now, I haven't posted this video in the group yet, but if we all want to be depressed, did you all see the story last year of the ex-Navy SEAL who's in his 60s who set the Guinness World Record for planking?
8 hours.
8 hours.
Right.
8 hours. Anyway, the plank is so important because the plank represents the core, strengthening your core. And it's true in Gashmis and in Ruchnius. It's true physically and spiritually. You're only as good, you're only as strong as your core. So those groups have been really, really great.
Daf Yomi example.
Yeah, the daf. The daf is called a plank. You can't live without the daf. You got to hold on to the daf every day. You got to hold on to that day. I think if you plank for 30 days, you can't help but see results, even if you're not being careful with your eating or your exercise. But more importantly, I'd like to think that if you plank 30 straight days, you'll keep planking. You'll keep turning your phone off. You'll keep walking the circle. You'll keep reading a little bit more. What are you reading, Rabbi Moskowitz? That a little extra reading. What are you reading these days?
So now I'm reading a book called The 5 a.m. Club, which is about getting up early, maximizing the early time in your day. Growing up, I was not an early morning person. I was actually a late night person. My wife calls my house that I grew up in a time warp because you would go at like 12, 1, 2 in the morning and the lights would be on, the TV would be blaring. To this day, I could call my mom at 1 o'clock in the morning and guaranteed she'll be up. And my wife's family is a little bit different. They had a slightly earlier bedtime. And so she couldn't understand it when we got married and she'd come to my house in Boston and like 2 in the morning, we'd all be sitting up and we'd all be schmoozing. And that's the environment I grew up in. As I got older, though, I started, all these books, Tim Ferriss, a lot of the interviews that he conducts. And you start realizing that some really successful people maximize their early hours. That specifically right when you wake up in the morning, before the rest of the world wakes up, when your mind is still clear, before you've checked your inbox and you have so many other things to do, you can really maximize that time. And I've really tried very hard over the last number of years to switch my entire rhythm from being a night person to being a morning person. When I was training last year, I had to do it big time because I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning a lot of the times. But I love it. Mornings when it works, it's amazing. There's nothing better than by 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, having basically had a full day, gotten exercise, read a little bit, learned a little bit, davened. It's something really beautiful about that.
Now, what happens on the other end, right? It's now 9:33 for
awesome.
Our live audience. Of course, we got the podcast listeners listening anytime they want, maybe at 5 a.m. Maybe they wake up at 4 a.m. to hear Behind the Bima. But what happens to you burning the candle on the other end?
So it's interesting. The before I started training for the marathon, I met with a coach, and my coach told me that there are 3 central things that are critical for running. One of them was sleep. And he said, whatever you're getting on the front end, whatever you're losing on the front end, you have to make back on the back end. And I had to really be disciplined. I'm not a disciplined sleeper at night. And I had to work really hard to get into bed and to give myself enough time to get to sleep so that I could get up early in the morning and function properly, because you can't go to sleep at 1 in the morning and wake up at 4 in the morning. That just doesn't work. And if you're getting up at 5:30 in the morning, you got to go to sleep early. I mean, I was once talking to, I don't have permission to quote him, but a prominent rabbi who gives a very prominent daf yomi. And I asked him, I said, when do you prepare the daf yomi? He says, I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I prepare the daf yomi. Then I said, well, if you get up at 5 in the morning to prepare the daf, what time are you going to sleep? He said, I am in bed at 10 o'clock every night. He said, some people think it's like a macho thing. I stayed up late. I was up till 1 in the morning. He goes, no, for me, being macho means I'm in sleep at 10 so that I can get a good night's sleep, be up at 5, prepare the daf, teach the daf, and then, be a normal functioning person throughout the day.
It's good. Yeah, it's not always.
You're an early morning person. You're up early.
Yeah, you know what? But the problem is I found that I was burning the candle on both ends, and that catches up with you. So actually, one of the gifts of Corona, if there are any silver linings, and there are people who feel blessed, not everybody's blessed to even be able to see or identify them, is that change of schedule. My whole household was on a totally and utterly different schedule, which included staying up a little bit later. They woke up a little bit later. It really shifted things a lot. I'm heading back to that early schedule, but I think that we all have to be, we didn't make a sleep group, which would be a good 30-day challenge about trying to get a certain amount of sleep. And again, everyone can identify what they need, but holding ourselves accountable to sleep that amount that we need. It's all about mind, body, and soul. It's about all these things, really. If you're in a disciplined zone, you're in a disciplined zone. If you're in an undisciplined zone, so what's true when you're taking care of your body, you're taking care of your soul, you're taking care of your spirit, you're taking care of your relationships. And when you're neglecting them and you're letting go, then you're letting go.
Well, let me ask you a question about that, because you and I were in yeshiva. All three of us were in yeshiva. And the great Rosh Yeshiva, the people that you and I are close with, do not need a lot of sleep. I think of my Rebbe, who will sometimes call me back at 2, 3 in the morning, and just has this incredible ability to function normally on almost no sleep whatsoever. I was once talking to one of the Rosh Yeshiva. He said, can I call you back late? I said, sure. He goes, how late? I said, 12, 1. He goes, oh, I was thinking more 2, 3. I said, when do you sleep? Right. He said, Phil, I sleep fast. That was his thing, right? I sleep fast. So I guess you and I grew up in a mentality, or we went through a system where that was idealized, right? To be a Rosh Yeshiva, you had to really limit the amount of sleep that you got and burn it on both ends. But right. Again, for me personally, I've not been able to do that. As you said, it runs me down. It gets me sick. I'm not a happy person when I do that.
The Rebbe Zirtzai Gimel Tammuz, when the Rebbe passed away, or to honor a large commemoration of his Yahrzeit, there were several biographies that came out simultaneously, and they were all extraordinary. They were really wonderful. Some were intellectual biographies, some were biographies, some were hagiography. But one of them talked about, or maybe they all talked about, the fact that the Lubavitcher Rebbe of blessed memory never took a vacation. Not a day of vacation. Never took a vacation. Not a day. And he had this mentality that there's so much work to do, and we are God's ambassadors and agents, and we have to do his work. He never took a vacation. And he famously spoke about there's no such thing as retiring. Right. The shlichim that go out in the field, there's no retirement date. There's no retirement. So when I read the book, I was really disheartened, and I actually gave this feedback. And I said, you got to qualify when you write that kind of thing, because somebody like me, like you, we're in the field, and we say, wow, I must be really pathetic because I need a vacation. I need a day off. I need to disconnect. I need to sleep. So I think that it's a really dangerous line. The people that we admire, to acknowledge that maybe they have that ability, but also to be very careful that we don't put that pressure on ourselves or hold ourselves to a standard that we can't, because they were superhuman. There's a reason they were who they were. And that's not necessarily the standard that we were supposed to be. They were incredible. Our fact checker says they were incredible people. And I think they were literally incredible people. And we can't necessarily hold ourselves to that standard.
You and I had this debate when the Rav Elyashiv biography came out, or it was the Rebbetzin Kanievsky biography. And one of the things we spoke about was Elyashiv was so invested in his Torah study that he didn't know I was his children or his grandchildren's names. And I remember that bothered you a lot. You and Brian Galbett, you debated that a lot. Whether that's something we should idealize, whether that there are just certain people in this world that were created with that purpose of being so shakua, so invested in Torah learning that they don't have to be in the world. But whether that's a model for us or not is something else.
Now, Rabbi Broide, you're joining us tonight. That is not your normal background. You are not at home. Where are you tonight?
Can anyone tell that I'm sweating? Can you see that? Okay, when you
yes, we can.
Remember, our podcast listening audience is listening on podcast. So
I'm telling you, it is over 80 degrees in this room right now. There's no air conditioning.
Where are you?
I'm in my other office. I don't know if I'm allowed to say because you're not supposed to have alcohol in this building. So
in that case, never mind.
I'll talk about it right now. But Marla, I just bought it as a prop. It's apple juice. Okay.
Tell us what are the outreach plans for the high holidays this year, given the limitations that we have?
Opened it up today. So Baruch Hashem. One thing that we're adding this year, which we've never done before, I actually got this idea from Rabbi Nu. He said he's doing this on the second day of Rosh Hashanah because the first day is Shabbos, so you can't blow the shofar, and everyone looks forward to it. So the second day, we're going to do a tashlich and a shofar blowing at the circle at the lake in the middle of Montoya Circle.
Beautiful.
To come. So that's one of the highlights, and some other fun things that both of you will hopefully participate in. But I can think about the waking up early. One of the things you were saying, I think also that just practically speaking, you end up. It's not just being productive, because someone could argue you could be productive in the morning, you could be more productive at night. But I find that the kinds of things that you could normally be lazy about later in the day, because you could say, oh, I already did a full day. Now you kind of stay out of trouble. Like the nonsense or just the wasting time or things that you probably, a little more TV.
Now you're a morning person, right? You're up very early.
I'm telling you. But the point is that it kind of keeps you on the straight and narrow a little bit more. The earlier you wake up, earlier you go to sleep.
Do you hit the snooze button or the alarm goes off, you jump?
No, I always snooze it. But I'm setting it earlier and earlier now. So it's hard. It's hard to get up. It is hard.
Very hard.
But if I don't, then I'm in trouble.
Very hard.
Speaking of the high holidays, Rabbi Goldberg, we sent out the high holiday forums this week. It was a big deal. For the first time in Boca Raton Synagogue history, it was an online platform.
Over here, Rabbi Moskowitz.
What was that?
Our new IT department.
Our new IT department?
Yeah,
exactly. No, I'm this way. So tell our listeners, how did that go? This was obviously it's a different year, a lot of different types of services, minyanim at BRS, different types of platform, lots of changes. What was some of the feedback that you're hearing, and what are some of the lessons for our listeners out there who come to BRS and don't come to BRS, who are going through these times and their shuls are putting stuff out and their kids are starting out in school? What are some of the messages that you have for our leaders about how to be good followers when leaders are trying to lead?
That's a great question. What are your thoughts?
That was a long question. I don't remember the question.
That was Rabbi Goldberg's way of saying I was playing around with the formatting that I wasn't paying attention to.
Question, and I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm curious what yours is.
Well, I asked you the question. That's like a Jewish thing to answer a question with a question.
So I have a little thought on this, that it's a good transition to something serious. There's a quality that's been jumping out at me this entire time throughout Corona for the last 6 months. And I think it's a core of really relationships in general. It's a core of community. It's a core of work, professional, career, home life. And it is, everyone's familiar with Stephen Covey's 7 Habits, Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
So my favorite habit, or one of my favorite habits, but I think is really important, which happens to be scrolling across the bottom of our screen right now, is habit number 5. And habit number 5, Covey says, is first seek to understand, then to be understood. And Covey writes in the 7 Habits, he says, if I were to summarize in one sentence the single most important principle I've learned in the field of interpersonal relations, that's a pretty big endorsement. He says, if I have to summarize in marriage and parenting with colleagues and friends and community, profit, not-for-profit life, if I had to summarize the most important principle, the single most important principle in all interpersonal relationships is this: seek first to understand and then to be understood. So, I guess one of the challenges that we've had that has been testing patience and having to learn to manage it is that we deliberate every policy, I like to say that before Corona, so the community had a policy debate once every 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. What were the debates at BRS? Well, first there was Stendergate several years ago. I don't know how many of you remember Stendergate. Should people be allowed to bring their personal Stenders into Shul? Some said, yeah, the more Stenders around, it's Hamish, it's yeshivish, it's comfortable. Others said you killed the aesthetic of the whole room, and why do some people get and others don't? And, you're blocking the aisles and it doesn't work. And that, it's hard to believe that there was a time that was the most debated, hot, controversial topic. Several board meetings, people lined up and took sides. People advocated positions. That was, I don't know, how long ago was that?
Before
12,
my time.
15 years ago. You
12,
remember
14 years ago?
But then people, along with the standards, there was the chairs. It was the same meetings. There was like one or two people started bringing in their own chairs. There were more.
Good, right. Chairs, armchairs, recliners.
The week where it kind of broke, like where we said, okay, a board meeting, some guy brought like a lazy boy.
Right, like a lazy boy chair. It's like a recliner. Talk about falling asleep during the drasha. So, right, there was that, I don't know, 12, 14 years ago.
Right.
Then we had, should the chairs face forward or face each other?
I was here for that one.
People lined up, votes. I'm not minimizing. For some people, it's very important. But that was, right? And then we had, which is still a very hot topic, I shudder to even raise it, but should the volunteer security committee be allowed to carry firearms? What's the law? What's the halacha? What's prudent? What's what? Heated, controversial. So until now, it's like once every 3, 4, 5 years, you had to have a policy. You called a board meeting. People lined up. They submitted, their position paper, and then you took a vote. Now, during Corona, every day. Should bathrooms be open? Should bathrooms be closed? Over a certain age can come, they can't come. Masks. Should the minyan be at this time or at that time? Indoors or outdoors? The chazan or no chazan? Is it time to start a class? You can't have a class. Can you have a chavruza? Every day, there's not one. Every day there are several policy decisions for which people have the most heated and invested and emotional connection to that policy decision. And that is taking its toll. It's taking its toll on leaders, lay leaders, professional leaders, rabbis, because every day we are, and people don't understand. So they got this email, and it's not true for us. It's true for all our colleagues. We're in touch with all of our, we are here tonight, and behind the Bima, we are representing rabbis everywhere. And I can promise you that rabbis everywhere are sitting, and we are schwitzing over every period and comma, over every letter and policy, over every italic and bold, over every implication, every nuance, the tagim, everything in that letter. And people get it, and they skim it, and they don't even read the whole thing. They don't read, not between the lines, they don't read the lines. And right away, the texts, the emails, they come back, and they don't understand how much we schwitzed, how many days, hours, weeks, deliberation, debate, and concern, committees, and focus groups, and bouncing it off people. So this is a long-winded way of answering your question, and to say the following. If I had one pet peeve or one wish for people, it's that challenge any policy. You're entitled to. You have a right to. We can all see things tremendously differently. We all live differently. We come from different places. We're in different situations, and we're allowed to see things very differently. Debate and give feedback and offer criticism. It's all welcome. But first seek to understand before being understood. And what I mean by that is just ask a question. I noticed that this is like this. How'd you come to that? I noticed, or I'm wondering, or I'm curious, or could you explain? First, seek to understand. And if we offer you the explanation, and we say, well, our task force, or we spoke to others, this was the advice, this was the conclusion, this was the focus group, and you say, well, that's lovely, but here's what I think, we welcome it. But whether it's in your marriage, or whether parenting, or whether at work, or whether in Jewish communal life, habit number 5, first seek to understand, and only then to be understood.
Good.
Yes, kada.
Not even a kash over. I'll tell you, it actually ties into one of my favorite studies that I've ever seen, and I love playing this with people. I've played it with kids and adults of all ages, and it's really fun to do. And I encourage our listenership actually to do it at the Shabbos table this week. But it's called the letter E test. And what you do is you ask people to draw a letter E on their forehead. Now, it sounds very simple, but you could actually draw the letter E in one of two ways. You can draw the letter E so that it makes sense to me, but is backwards for you. Or I can draw the letter E so that it's correct for you, but backwards for me. And they've studied different types of people, how they write the letter E. And obviously what it boils down to is, do I first and foremost see the world through my own perspective, or do I first and foremost see the world through your perspective? If I draw the letter E and I do it from your perspective, that shows that my initial inclination is that before I even care about my own needs, I'm trying to think of how you understand things. As you said, first seek to understand. I'm curious. How does Rabbi Goldberg view the world? How does he view this? On the other hand, people who draw the letter E for themselves first obviously view the world from themselves first. So it's a cute little game that you can play to sensitize yourself to this idea of, are you viewing it through your own perspective first or through other people's perspective?
No, I don't even mean in the biggest, you're right, and it's a beautiful insight, but not only in the big global sense, like debating politics. We just did this. Those who learn the daf, we just did this. Erevin Yud Gimel, that Beis Hillel always first heard Beis Shammai's opinion before expressing their own. They first sought to understand before being understood. That's Beis Hillel. The reason the Gemara says we paskin like Beis Hillel is they first listened to Beis Shammai and then they came to their conclusion. But I'm not talking about in the global big sense. I'm just talking about you're about to react. Your spouse, your child, your friend, they did something. They left something in the middle of the floor. They reacted. They changed something up on you. Just ask a question. First understand, and then you can give your reaction. Then you can give how you feel. And again, this is not me. It's Covey. If I were to summarize in one sentence the single most important principle in the field of interpersonal relations, imagine we could have a 30-day challenge of first seeking to understand before being understood. Yeah.
That'd be great.
Start the group.
That'd be great. Oh, wait.
Rabbi Broide, what do you think?
We can assign people to be in that, by the way. Hey.
We have a special guest who just, all right.
Yes, past his bedtime.
It's not a school night yet. Not until Monday.
Oh.
Not until Monday. Yeah. Rabbi Broide, what are you hearing? What are you hearing out in the field about our policies and how we're trying to do? And any feedback? What are your thoughts?
1 second. My mom's calling me right now. Ma, what's the latest? What do you got?
It would not be behind the Bima if Rabbi Broide did not reference his mother.
Yeah. No. First of all, I hear that most people are actually very, very happy. There are a few people, unfortunately, that just don't get it. That's just you'll see that in most places. But I was actually on the phone today with another large synagogue that's putting up a tent for Rosh Hashanah, a bigger synagogue than we have. And I said to them, I'm just curious. I said, are you guys air conditioning that tent? They said, what, are you crazy? We can't air condition the tent. Because you air condition it's more dangerous than being inside. Right. I said, we actually just had a very similar question in our community, and we're dealing with it.
And there's no right or wrong, and nobody should be vilified. And whether you're a certain age or a certain condition or fit into a certain demographic or category, there's no right or wrong. Outside, inside, people are entitled to their opinion, and we will accommodate. Right? That's the thing. We've also said we'll make any minyan on our campus for whatever you need. We'll cap it at a certain number. We'll make it for a certain demographic. It could be people from your development or people who followed exactly your rules and lifestyle. We're open. We're wide open to ideas and suggestions. As long as it's safe, we'll do it and we'll provide it. But just give us the courtesy. And by the way, this is like an unwritten life rule of Shul. Just give us the courtesy of first seek to understand before being understood. Just show some curiosity about why we're doing what we're doing or how we came to that conclusion before you tell us why we're totally wrong.
Right. But I think also as the rabbis, you guys definitely get to hear a lot more negative than positive. Which you're not hearing what most people are saying because they're not calling you and telling you how great everything is. You hear from a lot of loud people, but it's a very small group of people in the end. And I think that most people love everything that's going on right now. They're so impressed with what's going on. And I'll tell you the truth, they wouldn't be able to do it. No one has any other ideas. So, I mean, this is
that's one of the challenges of leadership is sifting through the noise, right? There's Shabbat table conversations. There's anecdotal information that you're getting in. And as you said, we're getting a lot of feedback, text messages, WhatsApps, people pulling us over in the supermarket. And you as a leader need to be judicious enough to say, okay, that's anecdotal. This is important. This is not. And it's hard to sift through it, not take everything so personally and not get bent out of shape about every piece of feedback that you get back.
But that's hard for some people.
It's very hard.
Some people don't take it to heart.
There's a reason. There's a high correlation between rabbis and having no hair. I mean, I had a full head. I had a full head of wavy, flowing hair before coronavirus.
I was going to say, we all did.
Well, we want to thank again our dear friend Donnie Oppenheimer, Oppenheimer Law Firm at oppenheimerlaw.com. Thank him for sponsoring. Sponsorships are available. Rabbi Moskowitz is also looking for a sponsor for better Wi-Fi in his house because his audio has been coming in and out the whole night. Rabbi Moskowitz, we're going to have to work on that.
Yeah, maybe in my next contract, that'll be part of it. Better Wi-Fi.
All right. First,
can I tell you some amazing news? I got some great news.
Please.
Simone and I went out, was it last night? We went out for dinner, first time in 6 months, to go out to a restaurant, right? So we're sitting at this nice outdoor space. And I'm telling you, Lisa and Ed from Skokie came over and they said, 1 second. "Are you the rabbi from behind the Bima?" I said, "I'm so happy." The other guys keep saying every week that they go out and people come over in Muncie and they say, "Oh, this is the rabbi behind the Bima." I never get to hear that. It was the greatest moment.
You were recognized. It's amazing. The truth is, behind the Bima is it's a lot of fun for us, and we appreciate that you come along.
Thank you, Lisa and Ed.
It's an outlet for us to be able to discuss and share with you some of our thinking and have fun and debate hot topics. We have a lot of fun with it, and we appreciate when you rate and review and enable us to get it out to others. We were supposed to have an amazing guest tonight. She's really I would say a walking Kiddush Hashem, but she's a running Kiddush Hashem, a speed running Kiddush Hashem, and we're going to have her on in the future. I will say this. If I had $1 for every person who emailed me today telling me that we should have Amari Stoudemire on our show, we would have a brand new campus. We could cancel the Kol Nidre appeal. I want to thank the 400 million people who emailed today suggesting Amari Stoudemire. And let's just say, I can't say anything too soon, but there's already been contact, and we were told that now that the conversion is complete, he is coming to America soon, and please God, he will be a guest. We hope. I'm Behind the Bima at some point. So Behind the Bima is only getting bigger and better. We're so grateful for that. Rabbi Moskowitz, what are you writing about this week? How do you find inspiration for writing these days? Talk to us about your writing creativity. You went from really hesitating and not wanting to write to now putting out an article every single week. What's that like?
Actually, I'm really enjoying it. Obviously, you had been writing many years before me. You've always encouraged me to do that. And it was hard for me to get started, but now that I'm started, I enjoy it a lot. My idea actually came to me at 5 o'clock in the morning. I woke up and I popped my head off the pillow and said, "That's what I'm writing about this week," and I ran with it today. And I see I'm cutting in and out again. But I'm actually writing about my cousin who is a sergeant for the Durham, North Carolina Police Department. And a few years ago, he responded to a call where someone was stuck. I don't want to give the whole thing away, but let's just say he responded to a call of someone who was stuck on a train track. And instead of running away from it, he ran towards it. And you'll have to read the article to find out exactly what happened. But I'm going to encourage everyone to be a hero, not a bystander throughout their lives. So that's the article this week. Okay, so let me give you some pushback before you write the article. I want to. It's a kasha Rabbi Moskowitz against Rabbi Moskowitz, and here's what I mean by that. Earlier, you said that when we think about our Rebbeim who sleep so few hours a night, it puts the pressure on us to sleep that few hours. So, how do you define? Is hero defined differently for different people? Maybe for someone it's heroic just to get to the end of the day. Is the only definition of a hero to run into the fire? Well, you'll have to read the article, but I'm a step ahead of your kasha. But yeah, my whole argument is that you don't have to run into an oncoming train to be a hero. That there are everyday opportunities that you and I face. Sometimes they happen in a carpool line. Sometimes they happen at a water cooler. Sometimes they happen in conversations in your front yard. And we are oftentimes faced with the opportunity of either stepping back, right? We could be hearing negativity and cynicism. We could be hearing bullying, right? There are all different types of circumstances where you and I could either shrug a shoulder and say, okay, we just saw something we shouldn't have seen or some injustice to a person, and we can shrug our shoulders, or we can choose to stand up and speak out. And I think that's what differentiates a bystander from what I call an upstander, someone who runs away from those opportunities versus someone who runs towards an opportunity. And my entire thesis is that you don't have to run into a train, but there are really opportunities for heroism all around us every single day. And it just depends on how we live our lives. Beautiful. I'm looking forward to reading it. What are you writing about this week? That is an excellent question. I was thinking about writing about the first seek to understand before being understood. I kind of just got it out of my system now. I feel a whole lot better now without having to write it. So we will see. Now, we've gotten some feedback in our comments about some protests that we are not on Zoom. So Rabbi Broide, you want to share? You want to give a little explanation of why we moved over platforms? If you're listening behind the Bima podcast, the world recognized, award-winning podcast. Yeah, behind the Bima. But why did we abandon Zoom and move over?
Well, I think everyone jumped on Zoom right after Corona. It was really the only platform, and I think most people are, as they say, zoomed out. And I think what we're trying to do is give people a more enjoyable viewing experience. Obviously, the listeners on the podcast won't necessarily see this, but we're just scratching the surface and what's really available on this new platform. So there's going to be a lot of exciting things coming. Just be patient. Everyone's got to relax, and you'll see. There's no one that doesn't have access to YouTube. Even if you don't have a Facebook account, everyone can get YouTube. So it's...
Well, there are 3 ways that you can still watch live on YouTube, on Facebook, or RabbiEfremGoldberg.org. So there's 3 ways you can still watch live. They're no worse, like you said, than Zoom, but it gives us a lot more features, a lot more flexibility, be able to have guests in a lot more ways. And so we're trying it out. We're moving in. We're looking for everybody's feedback on the different views, the comments that are coming in. And there's no benefit to Zoom over this. Let's say Zoom is an amazing platform, and we're so grateful. So much Torah has been shared. So many meetings have been hosted. When you need interactive, Zoom is really almost unparalleled. It's great. But for our needs for tonight, this has been a great, fun. I think a successful experiment. I'm excited about it. I invited someone to come on now for a minute in our closing minute, but it's very possible that he's fast asleep in front of his computer screen, so he did not see it. He might be snoring right now like the dentist or like he's at the barber.
What if we all yell right now? Would it wake him up?
Giving him 1 more minute to join, because he'd be a lot of fun to sign off, one of our dear friends.
Although I think you're more distracted in this platform.
I know. I was going to say the same thing.
Really?
Well, first of all, we could see when you're on a different screen because your forehead shines in a different way. So we
wow,
we know when you're distracted. But I think listen, there are a lot of new features. You're playing around. It's like you get a new toy. It's hard to focus.
I'll tell you, it's an interesting point in our closing minutes here, because I was telling someone this recently. Rabbis today don't just have to prepare a shiur or a drasha or a lecture or a talk. You are the producer, director, writer, creative engineer. Right? How many things are we trying to juggle and balance simultaneously? You're trying to share your screen, move your source sheets, mute that person who you're hearing yell at their spouse. Like, you're doing all these to avoid the Zoom bomb. They're like a million moving parts simultaneously, and you are producing and directing and the engineer. And no one taught us that in Smicha.
But isn't that the rabbinate in general? I mean, no one taught us half of what you do, right? How much of what you do on a daily basis was covered in our curriculum? Again, I know a lot has changed, but whenever you were in Smicha 20, 30 years ago, how much of it prepared you for the day-and-day counseling, pastoral, CEO components, leadership, management, fundraising?
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. So you're right. But so every day in the rabbinate demands skills that we didn't get beforehand, and you got to learn them. And it's hard. By the way, the 3 of us and our rabbinic team, for the most part, are relatively tech savvy, and we're very blessed. Different people on our team even more, but relatively tech savvy. But there are rabbis out there who are dinosaurs. To their credit, by the way, they're probably much more focused, and they probably are learning a lot more Torah, and they're a lot less distracted. And they're dinosaurs when it comes to technology, but they're also at an enormous disadvantage during these months of Corona, because they don't have that reach or that access or that outlet to be able to share it in the ways that technology gives us. So we're constantly learning. I am trying to filibuster, is that the term? And buy time. Oh, here he comes. Hold on. I think we woke him up. Is he pressing the link?
Who's coming on? Can we
come aboard in our closing?
Can we get a drum roll? Can we get a drum roll?
There he is.
There
he is. The chef joined. Chef, what's happening, Chef?
What's cooking, Chef?
Have I got tips for you?
Chef, tell us about your special dips during coronavirus. What is the latest dip that you're working on? This is for everyone who's watching. Our dear friend, Chef Gersh Schwadron, a.k.a. Forrest Gump. I say that only because he has been around the world, and every day you think you know him and everything about him, and he tells you, oh, yeah, I was once with the king of this place. I was once with this person, this famous person. Chef,
King of Jewish geography.
Chef is a graduate of the CIA, the Culinary Institute of America, and he's a dear friend and a funny guy and an amazing chef. Chef, what are you cooking up now?
Actually, I just put together your supersized the shuk, the falafel dip. That's the new one.
Ooh. Tell us about the falafel dip.
Supersized. The rabbi gets a supersized.
It's supersized for the supersized.
Listen, I would take care of both of you, but
I ordered the tomatoes.
Hold on, Chef, what is in a falafel dip? Since when is falafel a dip?
So anyway, when you were up at the wedding and you messaged me that I need to create this thing, so I sat back and said, okay, so if I was going to do this falafel dip, what is it? So it should have every flavor that you could possibly think of as you walk through the shuk. Every fragrance, every spice. And so basically it has literally every spice. There's za'atar in there, there's turmeric in there, there's cumin in there. It's got all these flavors. And whereas the Hamish people, they take probably frozen falafel, they grind it up and throw it into mayonnaise. I actually make the falafel with fava beans and the cilantro and the parsley, just like in the shuk. It's the green falafel.
It's amazing. I love it. It's got a tremendous flavor profile, a nice acidity. It brings the heat, and every other expression that I know when it comes to rating food. It is delicious.
For Rabbi Broide and Rabbi Goldberg, what are your favorite Chef Gersh dishes?
Well, I got he just made it. What was it? The jalapeno tomato dip, vegan and spicy.
That's good. You like that. Pecan pie, I know is Rabbi Moshe Moskowitz's favorite. I am partial, although it's got to be in the right circumstance and time and place. But the what's it called? The bean dip?
7-layer bean dip.
7-layer.
Seven layer.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that. You got to be careful with that.
You got to be very careful with the 7-layer bean dip. But it is delicious with some taco chips. Chef Gersh is a wonderful chef. Chef, we're getting some of our viewers are actually asking. This is Schwadron from Passaic. Who is this Schwadron? Tell us, Schwadron, how are you related to the Maggid of Yerushalayim, Schwadron?
Let's see. So my father's mother was a daughter of the Marsham.
Amazing.
Wow.
Amazing. Chef, we're going to wrap it up. The hour is late, but we're not going to wrap it up without first telling everybody that Chef Gersh is the most eligible bachelor on the East Coast, maybe on the entire United States of America. He is fun-loving, humorous, a fantastic chef, has the biggest heart, loves everybody. And Chef, I know I'm not embarrassing you, considering you post regularly that the hashtag Get Gersh Married. So I'm not embarrassing you, right? But Chef, tell us about yourself for the listening audience and for the woman out there who of your dreams. First of all, you could be in touch with us, and we'd love to connect you with the chef. Chef, tell us something about yourself and what you're looking for as we head out tonight.
I'm looking for the woman that when on Friday night I'm sitting at your Shabbos table singing Eishes Chayil. I could visualize her.
Beautiful. Isha Yiras Hashem Hitis Halal. Amazing.
Phone lines are open now.
Phone lines are open now. You can be in touch with any one of us. Chef, thanks for joining.
Rabbi, thank you so much.
Thanks for being part of it. Oppenheimer Law Firm, thank you for your sponsorship.
Love you guys.
We've got some amazing guests lined up for the next few weeks. Some of them still a huge surprise. But until then, please rate and review our podcast on all the podcast players. And let us know what you think about our new streaming service. Be in touch with us by next week. We'd like to have some big news about Chef Gersh. So be in touch with us. America's most eligible bachelor. Until then, stay happy, stay healthy, stay holy. Have a fantastic night, everybody.